Hi everyone, it's Tonya Gibbs and welcome to my channel. Today is day one of the hashtag Love Summer Art project that is going on here on YouTube. If you're unfamiliar with that, look up there in that search bar for YouTube, type in hashtag Love Summer Art, and you will be introduced to an entire world of creative content. So sit back and grab your favorite beverage and let's get started. On my channel today, I'm going to be sharing a mixed media tag tutorial from start to finish. Here's a glimpse of the tag, lots of texture. I did this angle so you could see the depth and the texture here. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with a piece of scrap chipboard. You could use recycled chipboard if you want to, but this is a really thick, heavy piece. And I'm adding a liberal coat of gel medium, and then I'm taking a pair of my husband's jeans and just cutting out a little piece of fabric, and then I die cut this with the Sizzix and Tim Holtz tag book plate die. Now hang on to those extra pieces because those make fantastic texture and could offer some great opportunities for creative content later. Now I'm adding some clear gesso to this just to seal over the top of this denim, and it also gives me an opportunity to get a little bit of tooth there so my mediums stick without soaking into the fabric. This is the Prima textural paste. This is the white crackle, and a Tim Holtz flourish stencil, and I'm going to add a very liberal amount of this. In some places I'm going to keep it kind of thin, and in some places I'm going to keep it really thick. The thicker the paste is as it dries, the bigger the cracks, and then the thinner, of course, the more fine the cracks. Now you do want to take this and leave it to the side to dry. Do not try to speed up the process, and just put it to the side. Also, you want to clean up your stencils really well, and take special care with your tools here. Go ahead and take them to the side and clean them up really well. So the theme for my tag today is wander, and what better thing to symbolize wandering than a dragonfly. So I've decided to take out a piece of teal colored vellum that's been in my stash for ages, and then some time travel teal from Lindy's Stamp Gang. This is part of the Lemore Weber's Industrial Chic collection. And then I'm also going to tape off my little vellum piece there and to my board because I noticed it was curling up on me, and this keeps it stable and it controls the wrinkles a little more. And then I'm going to come back with some of the Blazing Sun just to add a little hint of gold, and then I'm going to come back with the Rusty Lantern Lime, also from the Industrial Chic collection from Lindy Stamp Gang. All three of those spritzes were from Lindy Stamp Gang. So once that is completely dry, and you do want to make sure it's completely dry, I'm going to take the stamp, which is from IndigoBlu, and I'm going to ink it up with a little bit of Versa ink, and then stamp it onto my vellum. Now, I usually, when I do a technique like this, I try to do at least two, so that if something happens to one, I don't have to start all over again. So that's just a little tip, but never worry, nothing goes to waste here. If it doesn't get used on this project, I may use him on another project later on, usually a card or something like that. So once I have that, I'm going to heat set that with my heat gun, and that's going to help to give my dragonflies a really nice raised texture. Now, I'm trying to duplicate a variety of dragonflies that we have here in Florida this time of year. They are black, and they have these like iridescent blue colored spots all over them. So that's why I decided to go with this technique for creating them. I wanted them to look just like those dragonflies, because right now they're covering my garden all over the place. So I'm going to apply a little bit of gel medium to the back of that vellum and press it into a piece of white scrap cardstock and set it to the side to let it dry. Then I'm going to fussy cut them out. I did not back one of the dragonflies with cardstock because I wanted to see which one I ended up wanting to use. I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to have it stand up, and I was afraid that just keeping it straight vellum and not setting it on cardstock would result in the vellum eventually curling. So that's why one of them is with and one is without, because you need to answer that question of what if when it comes up. So now my tag is dry and you can really see all that yummy texture in it. Look for it in the video or in the close-up photos, but I love that it has that softness of the denim, but it mimics the lace because there's nothing yummier than lace with denim. So this is a bucket of one-hit wonders that sits on my desk. And for those of you who have followed me for a while, you've seen this make an appearance in almost every video. I have a self-packed of if I use something new, I must use something old. And usually tags are dedicated 100% to old. So this is a bucket of epic fails or never used it, or it's just the scrap pile, or it's the package that had one item left in the package or the items that didn't get used. So never fear, everything, like I said, gets used. So I'm just going to plunder through this bowl and I'm going to pull out items that I think might complement the theme of my tag. So I've covered my tag with a piece of scrap cheesecloth that had been tea stained, and the postage stamp looking chipboard piece there is actually the zigzag frame die from the original dies from Sizzix. I've had this forever and decided to make an embellishment out of it, and it's just perfect. I just cut 2 or 3 pieces of chipboard and then cut them in half and glued them together so that it was super thick and it looks like a super trendy chipboard accent piece that you would buy. So yay. So anyway, I'm going to cover that with gesso, and that way I can spritz some of the spray on it that I used on the Dragonfly. Same colors. You'll notice that I continue to go back to the exact same colors because that helps to bring all of my elements together when you color them similarly. There you go. That's a mouthful. So once that's good and dry, I am going to find placement for it on my tag as well. And I love how it's hanging off the edge of the tag. So I wanted to make sure that the cheesecloth kind of came tucked around this little accent piece. So it's going to go over the top, and then I love how it just kind of curls around that edge. I'm going to use gel medium as my adhesive today on my tag. This will give me an opportunity to pick things up and move them around as necessary, and it's super sturdy, and in Florida humidity sometimes you have a difficult getting adhesives to stick. This is a die cut that I've been using as a stencil on my desk. This is actually one that I tore trying to get out of the die, and I'm going to use it here. All I did was reactivate that Lindy stamp gang with a little bit of water and then colored up my die to match everything else. And notice that I left some areas white so that it would give a little bit of interest, and it makes this look kind of patinaed. So I'm going to go back into my little stash and start pulling out my flowers to get them arranged. And notice some of them looks like they don't have centers to them. I mean, seriously, they were used in other projects. I pulled the centers off and then decided not to use those. There's some things that I've pulled out here that I thought might work, but then turned out they didn't, so they just go back into the other pile. All of these flowers are from Prima. Some of them are very old school Prima. Like for those of you who have been scrapbooking for a really long time, you've probably seen them sold in bulk years and years and years ago. And then the applique is actually some lace that I cut apart to get that little lacy applique that the Dragonfly is sitting on. And then the wood veneer is also from Prima. And I like to keep elements, like if I do some florals, I like to have a metal and a wood, a little bit of white, a little bit of black on all of my projects. I mean, it just kind of keeps everything kind of rounded. That's my philosophy here when I start pulling things out. Now this heart was earmarked for another project and didn't get used, so I'm going to cover it with a little bit of gesso. It was a little too dark for this tag, so covering it with gesso and then spritzing it with that Lindy stamp gang. and I'm going to set that to the side and let it dry. And now I'm going to start really gluing things down. I'm adding the gel medium to the back of this applique. The applique is going to help to hide that hole where the frame is, so it doesn't look so empty behind the Dragonfly, and it also gives him a floral element to nestle himself on. So again, I'm using the gel medium, and one thing to keep in mind as you're using gel medium to glue down these heavier objects is that it doesn't stay put right away. It's not a quick fix, but I did want the opportunity to be able to lift things and continue to layer and tuck, and the gel medium does give me that. So I have a lot of playtime here. Unfortunately, you'll see me fuss with things as they slide around because they're not quite dry yet. So just keep that in mind if you decide to use this gel medium on these tags. The other thing I like too about the gel medium is you saw how I dropped that little wood veneer and the glue got onto my tag. It's not a mess. If it does happen to glop down there, it will dry clear and all is well in the universe as long as I pick up the bulk of it. So no big deal. These little sunflowers I've had forever in my stash, and I have recently fallen in love with them, but I absolutely love how this floral spray is taking on the look of wildflowers, because here in Florida the wildflowers are everywhere and I just absolutely love it. So now you can see how my little Dragonfly is sitting up there on the heart. I just absolutely love that he has so much body to him, and you can really see all of his coloring in. It's hard to see it in the photographs or in the video, but he's got a lot of color to him and he really sparkles. I did actually seal him up with a little bit of that time travel teal, so I did paint the back of him with some gel medium to seal that down, since the Lindy Stamp Gang is a water-based product. It does not dry permanent, so you do have to keep that in mind, or else it will bleed if it happens to get wet. So now I'm taking one of those little tiny roses to build out a center for that big rose there. And when I put that in there, I made sure that you couldn't see any of the little green things sticking out or any of the wire. And I'm adding all these other little elements. I'm just tucking them in to make a point that leads down the center of the tag. I love lots of stuff in my layers, so I typically overdo it. For those of you who might like something a little more subtle, this layout could totally work with fewer flowers. So to help all of my flowers sort of look like they belong together, even though they really didn't initially, I'm going to take a little bit of the Chateau Rose from Lindy Stamp Gang, and again, that's a Trace Chic from the Trace Chic collection, and I'm spritzing that in the center of all of my roses, and then I'm coming back over with that Blazing Sun Glitz Spritz, which has the gold, and I'm spritzing that too. The reason I did that was the Chateau Rose is what they call a flat Fabio, which means it has no shimmer in it, but I did want to add shimmer to all of my roses. So the Blazing Sun offers no color, but it has a gold shimmer, and they complement each other really well. Now what I'm doing is I'm building a base for my heart to sit on to elevate up. So I didn't want to use a pop dot because, or excuse me, a foam adhesive, because you'd be able to see the foam. So I have actually spritzed a ton of hot glue there under the heart and let it solidify a little, and then placed my heart on it. So the heart is sitting slightly elevated. And to make it look like the applique flower has a center, I've added that little teeny tiny pink flower there in the center. Now I'm spritzing the entire tag with the Blazing Sun Gold, and that's going to help to fill in those little cracks from my crackle medium. And no tag is complete without an eyelet at the top, so I'm using my We Are Memory Keepers Crop-A-Dial and the large eyelets from We Are Memory Keepers. I'm using a white one, and I'm going to set that really well there in the top. And then to make it look like it goes with everything, I'm going to spritz it with a little of that Blazing Sun as well. So now it is time for me to add my tag. This is a Tim Holtz philosophy token, and it says Wander on it, so I'm just going to add a liberal amount of gel medium to the back of that and let it sit there at the base of my floral spray, and it just says Wander. Now I did notice that it was a little too metallic, a little too dark, and it was drawing attention away from my Dragonfly, so I decided to cover it with a little bit of gesso. And what this is the tail end of a cosmetic sponge that I had trimmed off. I folded it in half so that the side I trimmed was exposed and put it on a binder clip, and I'm using it to apply my paint. Now I'm making up my famous concoction here. Glossy accents and glass glitter with a little bit of micro beads. And I'm going to use a palette knife to add that to all of the shadowed areas of my flower arrangement. As I move around the tag, I'm looking at negative space and trying to cover up where elements start and stop, transition areas that are awkward. This just sort of helps to bridge those gaps and make everything look like it belongs together. And since the glass glitter is so sparkly looking, it will also add light to those shadowed areas and give that little hint of jewelry that we're looking for. So it also serves another purpose too, because I'm using glossy accents. It will help to adhere a lot of my elements to the tag so that they are really stuck there for life. Then to bring some of that crackle texture to the top, I'm just going to come back with that texture paste and just touch some of the high points, like maybe around the tops of the flowers, the little stem that I put under the Dragonfly, a little on the applique, and around the base a little bit. And then I also touch the metal tag as well as the metal from the eyelet. And this is just going to, as it dries, it's just going to crackle and give another layer of texture here and help everything to just kind of come together. So now I'm taking a floral stem that I had trimmed away and I'm looping it around my ribbon and then using it to guide the ribbon through the hole in the eyelet. And this is a great way to get your threads or anything through those little tiny eyelet holes. So once I get my ribbon in place and I get my bow tied, and yes, I struggle. My fingers are so sticky at this point. It's hard to hold on to this organza. But I'm going to get my bow tied there. And then once I have it right where I want it, I'm going to take a little bit of gel medium and add it to my finger. And then I am going to add it to the knot of that tag so that it stays in place. And then I don't have to worry about it coming undone. I decided to go with the white ribbon because there were so many other colors going on this tag. I didn't really want to take away from anything by adding a bolder ribbon at the top. Seam binding would be a great choice too, but I like the look of the sheer organza. So here's a close-up of the tag and the butterfly. You can really see all of his texture and color in this photograph. And then here's the overall tag look. And I'm telling you, pictures just don't do this justice. It's absolutely breathtaking when you hold it in your hand. If you've enjoyed this production, come back to this channel tomorrow. I'm going to share with you a mixed media layout. Don't forget to hashtag love summer art to find other artists who are creating projects the 17th through the 20th. So make sure you're checking back each day for new projects on every channel. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. If you liked what you saw, please hit that subscribe button that's down there in the bottom, and don't forget to leave me a comment. Let me know what you think and that thumbs up. Also, I will put a complete list of supplies and the photos where you can really get in there and look at them over on my blog, and I will also link that and my social media outlets and all that kind of good stuff up on in the description box down below. And if you decide to create anything using these techniques, please hashtag following Tonya Gibbs in your social media so that I can find what you guys are creating based on what I've inspired. So thank you so much again for hanging out with me, and if you like this, don't forget to share it with a friend.